Who Moved My Cheese? Written by Spencer Johnson. Introduction. A Maze of Change. In a quiet gathering of old classmates, a conversation unfolds that brings unexpected lessons to light. One man, Michael, begins to share a simple yet powerful story that changed the way he views work, relationships, and life itself. The tale he recounts doesn't involve complicated strategies or intellectual theories, but rather a fable set in a maze, populated by two mice and two tiny humans, each representing how we might deal with change. The maze becomes more than a setting. It's a metaphor for the environments we live in, our jobs, communities, and routines. The cheese, sought eagerly by all, becomes a symbol for what we desire: success, love, security, happiness. And when that cheese disappears, we see who adapts, who panics, and who learns to move forward. Through this fable, the book explores how change is inevitable, and our response to it shapes the quality of our lives. What seems at first like a children's parable quickly transforms into a mirror reflecting adult fears and resistance. It's a story that asks uncomfortable but necessary questions. What do we do when what we count on vanishes? How do we respond when the comfort zone evaporates? The simplicity of the narrative hides a deeper invitation to recognize our habits and assumptions before they trap us. By the time Michael finishes recounting the story to his friends, what began as casual reflection turns into personal awakening. The little tale of cheese and mazes reveals truths many avoid, not because they're hidden, but because they're too honest to face. The fable becomes a tool, a way to reset our approach to change, courage, and growth. Chapter 1. The Four Characters in the Maze. The heart of the book beats within four characters: two mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two tiny humans called Hem and Haw. Each represents a different way of dealing with life's uncertainties. Sniff has a nose for change. He detects it early and prepares. Scurry, once aware, races into action. Hem denies and resents the change. Haw, hesitant at first, eventually laughs at his fear and chooses to adapt. These characters aren't mere cartoons. They're symbolic traits that live in each of us. On some days, we're like Sniff, sensing a shift on the horizon. Other times, we might act swiftly like Scurry, without overthinking. But often, we resist like Hem, clinging to the old cheese, believing it's unfair or unnecessary to move. And then, if we're lucky, we become Haw, scared but willing to explore. In the beginning, all four find a large stash of cheese at Cheese Station C. The mice arrive daily, running through the maze instinctively. The little humans become comfortable, even arrogant. They hang up pictures of the cheese, build routines around it, and assume it will always be there. But cheese, like life's rewards, doesn't stay put forever. One day, the cheese is gone. What happens next becomes the central drama. The mice accept the reality instantly and rush off into the maze to find new cheese. Hem and Haw, however, are shocked. They feel betrayed. "Who moved my cheese?" Hem demands, as if the world owes him a warning or an explanation. Their panic, denial, and anger mirror our own struggles with loss and uncertainty. By creating these simple yet distinct characters, the story lets us locate ourselves within the maze. It challenges us to ask, when change comes, and it always does, who am I? Do I sniff it out early, scurry toward new possibilities, hem and cling to the past, or Haw and eventually laugh my way into the unknown? Chapter 2. Fear, Comfort, and the Trap of Old Cheese. Hem and Haw's story after the cheese disappears is not just about loss, it's about what keeps us stuck. The comfort of Cheese Station C had lulled them into complacency. They never noticed the stash shrinking, nor did they want to think about the possibility that it could vanish. When it finally does, they're left paralyzed, not by the change itself, but by their fear of what comes next. Fear is the central antagonist here. Hem is especially gripped by it, refusing to even consider leaving the empty station. What if there's no cheese out there? He wonders. What if it's dangerous? He clings to what was, hoping it might magically return. Haw, too, is afraid, but something begins to shift in him. He starts to laugh, at himself, at the absurdity of staying still, at the idea that fear might be worse than reality. The absence of cheese becomes a kind of teacher. In the silence and hunger, Haw begins to confront his assumptions. Why did he believe the cheese would last forever? Why didn't he prepare for the possibility of change? He realizes that holding on to the past doesn't bring it back. If anything, it makes him miss the future waiting beyond the walls of the maze. For many of us, the trap isn't the change. It's our refusal to move. We wait at our own Cheese Station CS in stale relationships, dying careers, or outdated mindsets, hoping someone will restore what we once had. This part of the book reminds us that the biggest danger is not change, but our paralysis in the face of it. Chapter 3. The Journey Through the Maze. When Haw finally musters the courage to enter the maze, his steps are uncertain. Every corner holds the possibility of discovery or disappointment. He leaves behind notes on the walls, messages to himself and perhaps to Hem, should he ever decide to follow. These writings become the core wisdom of the book, simple yet profound. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Or, smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old? The maze becomes not only a place of search, but a metaphor for self-discovery. As Haw ventures deeper, he begins to change. Not just in behavior, but in mindset. He starts to enjoy the challenge. He remembers that movement brings learning, and that fear often shrinks once we step toward it. With every twist and turn, he realizes that he is not just looking for cheese. He's reclaiming his ability to respond to life. The cheese itself might be a job, a relationship, health, or success. But the maze, it's the world, with all its unpredictability, and the journey through it. That's our story, unfolding every time we dare to move again after loss. Eventually, Haw finds new cheese at a new station alongside Sniff and Scurry, who had arrived much earlier. But more important than the cheese is what he becomes in the process. Someone who doesn't fear change, but understands it, even welcomes it. The notes he leaves behind become a guide for anyone else brave enough to leave their comfort behind. Chapter 4. Letting Go and Moving On. Back at the empty cheese station, Hem is still frozen. He refuses to read Haw's notes, stubborn in his belief that the world should not have changed. But the story doesn't force redemption. It leaves us with a question. Will Hem ever move? Or will he stay, waiting forever for a reality that no longer exists? Haw's growth, meanwhile, is not marked by a grand transformation, but by small realizations. He learns to laugh at his fears. He begins to trust that even if he gets lost, movement is better than stillness. The greatest reward isn't the cheese, it's the freedom to change with grace. In life, we often delay action because we're waiting for certainty. But this story reminds us, there is no map, only a maze. And there is no guarantee that the next cheese station will be bigger or better. But there is a guarantee that if we don't move, we'll never find out. The book doesn't offer detailed strategies. Instead, It gives something more valuable, a mindset. One that says it's okay to be afraid, but not okay to be stuck. One that sees change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. And one that invites us to write our own messages on the wall, for ourselves and for others. Conclusion. The cheese keeps moving. Change isn't just likely, it's constant. Whether we like it or not, the cheese keeps moving. Jobs evolve, people grow apart, health fluctuates, and circumstances shift. In this simple story, we are given the gift of clarity. Change is not personal. It's not punishment. It's life. The choice lies in how we respond. We can be like Sniff and Scurry, quick to adapt, or like Hem, rigid and fearful, or perhaps like Haw, scared at first, but willing to learn. The point is not to eliminate fear, but to move in spite of it. By the time Michael finishes the story in that initial gathering, his friends are no longer just listening, they're reflecting. They begin to see their own cheese stations, their own hesitations, and perhaps even their own maze journeys ahead. The tale does not end with answers, but with a direction, forward. And maybe, in the end, that's the most powerful thing a story can do. Not hand us the cheese, but show us how to look for it. Thanks for listening.
Did you enjoy this book summary? Got ideas on how we can make it even better? Drop us a quick note. We're always listening and learning from you.